Hello, I'm James Izimoha. Welcome to Africa News. Let's see your headlines. South Africa's steel industry under strain amid global trade tensions. Zambia backs International Monetary Fund program despite economic challenges. Digital entrepreneurship thrives as online trading and e-commerce expands in Tanzania. Once the backbone of South Africa's industrial economy, the steel sector is now under severe strain as a 50% EU tax on steel looms. Analysts attribute the toll on jobs and production to global trade tensions and weak domestic conditions.
The decline of South Africa's steel industry hit a new low when ArcelorMittal announced it would close its loss-making steel division, putting at least 3,500 jobs at risk. The steelmaker posted a half-year headline loss of 1,014 billion rand, or $56.4 million, slightly narrower than a $63 million loss reportedly previously on persistently low sales volumes and low prices. A sector once seen as the backbone of industrial growth has been eroded by underinvestment and a decade-long energy crisis.
We're talking a sector that has been contracting at a rate of about 1.4% on a compound basis over the last 15 to 20 years. That just gives you a sense of the multi-year, and you could even say double-decade pressure that the sector has been experiencing. We've also seen that during the same period I'm talking about, between, let's say, 2008 and now, the sector has lost 213,000 jobs.
A $160 million lifeline by government has failed to stem the steel giant's bleeding. As retrenchment letters go out, speculation grows over a possible buyout by the country's investment arm, the Industrial Development Corporation, but officials remain tight-lipped. Analysts, however, agree the industry is too critical to be allowed to collapse.
You want the steel to be available for local, the rest of the companies down the value chain. And then for Africa, again, massive, massive importance in terms of building infrastructure on the rest of the continent. And we don't want to be dependent on Asia and on India for all of that.
Adding to the industry's woes are looming climate-linked taxes of up to 50% from the European Union, part of its push to curb emissions and protect its own steel producers amid rising global trade tensions. The EU is the country's second-largest export market after China. South Africa may be shielded by preferential trade terms, but the move could spark a global oversupply and destabilize local supply chains. Analysts say the new EU measures, which also target Chinese and Indian steel producers, signals the rise of a new era in global trade defined by green protectionism, which threatens to undercut domestic industries and slow industrial growth in developing countries.
Zambia says it wants more time to build on the progress made under its International Monetary Fund program. Officials believe extending the deal could help stabilize the economy further and keep key reforms on track amid ongoing challenges.
For the past 4 years, Zambia has been battling various economic challenges, including debt distress, drought, currency weakness, and low copper output, which have impacted businesses across the board, but more especially those in the informal sector.
But starting from 2021 until 2025, the business is not okay. Economy is not okay. In our business now, as you can see, when customers came, they are not buying,
So sometimes 2 for 3 days, when you find a customer to come on collect even 1 basket, even 2 baskets, so my business is very, very slowed down.
Both men want the government to step up measures to help them weather the challenges. Authorities argue that things are improving. More investment in the energy sector has eased load shedding, and the kwacha has recovered, hitting its strongest level since 2024 earlier this month on the back of rising copper demand. Chris Mutale, whose air freight business is heavily dependent on mining, believes the economy has turned a corner.
The main mines that gave us business were basically on slowdown or shut down. So we felt the impact of that very strongly, and it's been like that for basically the last 3 years.
Analysts credit the stabilization largely to the 2022 IMF Extended Credit Facility, which Zambia's government wants to continue for another 12 months, a move backed by market watchers.
When you have been facing fiscal indiscipline, spending over borrowing, you need a partner that will rein you in and will remind you what not to do. We have met all the performance appraisal benchmarks. Zambia is in very good standing to extend, and I think it's a good move to extend.
The government tabled its extension request at the IMF World Bank meetings, where it also sought finance for green infrastructure and copper processing.
The World Bank projects Tunisia's GDP growth to rise to 2.6% in 2025, up from 1.4% in 2024. However, stalled IMF talks continue to weigh on financing prospects, leaving questions about how the government will sustain momentum.
More than 2 years ago, Tunisian President Kais Saied publicly rejected what critics argued was a much-needed International Monetary Fund (IMF) loan to help the country deal with a severe multifaceted economic crisis rooted in long-standing structural imbalances, saying the funding would lead to more poverty. It stemmed from a fiscal model that had become unsustainable over the past decade. As of 2025, the country's public debt has passed the 80% of GDP mark, creating a precarious situation with high gross financing needs and rollover pressure. However, strong performance has been building momentum in agriculture, particularly olive oil and cereal production is a key driver of growth in Tunisia. This year, agriculture contributes approximately 10% of Tunisia's GDP. In 2024, the North African country's agricultural exports reached $2.6 billion, an increase of 15.8% from 2023, which was a year of extreme drought.
A 2.5% growth rate in 2025 is a considerable increase from the 1.4% recorded in 2024. There is a gradual recovery and return to growth, but the Tunisian economy needs a much higher growth rate. The fact that economic growth depends on agricultural activity is not sustainable because this sector is highly dependent on rain, while the previous years were characterized by severe drought.
Economic observers say the lack of progress on structural reforms demanded by the International Monetary Fund is a major impediment to sustained growth. Tunisia has opted for internal financing as an alternative to a loan from the IMF. The government seeks new direct financing of $3.7 billion from the central bank in the 2026 budget.
Tunisia heavily relies on domestic financing from local banks and the central bank with a zero interest rate as an alternative to IMF funding. It's true that this approach eases the budget deficit. The country's economy is, however, heavily dependent on foreign funding. The state needs foreign exchange to import vital goods and products like cereals, fuel, energy, and gas from Algeria.
Financial analysts say the deadlock with the IMF leads to highly restrictive external financing conditions, which are expected to limit growth potential in Tunisia.
Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has sworn in Professor Josh Amopitan as the new chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission. The president is calling for greater transparency and credibility in upcoming polls.
President Bola Tinubu has sworn in Professor Joash Amopitan, SAN, as the new chairman of Nigeria's Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, during an expanded National Economic Council meeting at the State House in Abuja. The appointment follows the expiration of former chairman Professor Mahmoud Yakubu's term, who oversaw the country's last presidential election. President Tinubu emphasised the need to safeguard public trust and transparency in Nigeria's electoral process.
It is important that our elections are free, fair and credible. We must consistently improve our electoral process, addressing the challenges of yesterday and innovating for today and tomorrow. To maintain public trust in elections, electoral integrity must be protected. All aspects of the process, from registration to campaigning, immediate access, voting and counting, should be transparent, non-violent, and be credible.
Speaking after the swearing-in, Amupitan pledged to uphold those values and to work closely with election stakeholders.
Like the president said, I was given a clear charge to ensure credible, fair and free election. Not just that I will ensure that that is done, I'm also going to engage all the stakeholders. Because no matter how you set the barometer and the level of success, you still need all the stakeholders to be able to succeed.
Amupitan, a professor of law at the University of Jos, was nominated by the president and confirmed by the Senate after approval by the National Council of State. He now faces the task of organising key elections, including Anambra's governorship race in November and the FCT area council polls in 2026.
2008-2014.
In Tanzania, a surge in digital entrepreneurship is reshaping how people earn a living. This follows an expansion in online trading and e-commerce. Experts say the country is entering a new economic era, one that offers opportunities but also calls for smarter regulation.
Freddy Kulaya began hawking travel gear in 2014 before opening a physical shop in 2019. He says business has picked up in recent years thanks to social media, which now plays a key role in driving sales.
Those of us in this business depend on finding customers online rather than waiting for walk-ins. Many customers now check your social media presence first. If you're not there, they can't find or trust you.
Freddy says online platforms like WhatsApp and Instagram allow him to sell across multiple regions, a factor he credits for keeping his business afloat. However, like many shop owners, he faces tough competition from online-only traders who operate without physical shops and often sell at lower prices. For Tanzania's Revenue Authority, online trade offers a new source of tax revenue. Those earning above $1,600 a year will pay just over $40 in annual taxes. Officials say this will expand the tax base and ensure fairness between online and traditional businesses.
We have offices ready to assist online traders, to give them knowledge, help them register, and ensure they contribute a small amount to the country's development.
Nearly 7 million Tanzanians are active on social media, using it for everything from entertainment to business. Economists say digital entrepreneurs could help tackle unemployment and drive economic growth. They are urging the government to register online businesses, curb fraud, and strengthen policies that can lift more people out of poverty.
Well, that's all we have today in African News. Thank you for watching and stay tuned to A News.